Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today is a great day. I'm here at Boot Ranch in Fredericksburg, Texas, here invited to drive some Ferraris to experience their new model lineup. So I'm gonna show you what that experience is like. All right guys, so we just got shuttled down to the country club area here. And first things first, I wanna show you some of the cars that are around here, starting off with this gorgeous LaFerrari. If you're home to San Antonio, you may have seen this car around here a couple of times before. Actually, I can proudly say that I've experienced a LaFerrari myself at the Circuit of America's Push to the Limit, so I know a little bit of what this car is capable of. But just some quick facts: naturally aspirated V12, it's a hybrid, one of the hypercar trilogy. And if we come around here, we can see that NA V12 engine right there. Gorgeous color, not a common color you see on a Ferrari, white, but I think it stands out on the LaFerrari. Now, this car is very near and dear to me. It's the 812 Competizione. If I had to describe this car in 3 words, it would be raw, aggressive, and a banshee. I mean, it's 800 horsepower being sent to the rear wheels. It looks so aggressive. One thing that's fascinating, if you look at this angle, most performance cars have kind of cutouts behind the front wheels to alleviate the pressure that builds up in the wheel well. The way Ferrari designed this cutout is so unique. I've never seen a cutout like that on a performance vehicle. And the way this line kind of carries through the side of the body, continues over the rear wheels, and then extends to this buttressed rear wing. The way the exhaust is actually integrated into the rear diffuser, that's fascinating to me. Ferrari did that specifically to be able to manage the aerodynamics and make sure the exhaust doesn't decrease any aerodynamic efficiency. And now just to show you some of the cars that we will be able to test here today, this is a Ferrari Purosangue, NA V12. We're not supposed to call Ferraris SUV, but obviously it's supposed to compete with the likes of the Lamborghini Urus, the Audi RSQ8, and so on and so forth, but it's not an SUV. Behind that, which is awesome, we have 2 Ferrari 296s. Overall, what this experience entails, I want to show you a little bit more of that, so follow me into the clubhouse. There's that exhaust on the 296. So as you follow me into the clubhouse, you can see we're coming to this gorgeous view of Fredericksburg, and there'll be some nice amenities that we can check out as well. If you follow me into the clubhouse here, first off, point out the Ferrari pillow. That's kind of cool right there. But the first thing I want to check out, this. So this room is essentially a mini example of what it's like to spec out a Ferrari if you were to order one. So here we have all the different Alcantaras. You can see the different colors that Ferrari offers. So this is Rosso FX. You get the tactile feel of how it feels. I think one of my favorite ones would probably be like a dark blue, like this one, blue medio. And then of course, we have all the different leathers, which is a much thicker book. Again, have some really nice blues on there. I'm a huge fan of blue. So cool, you get to actually see what leather you would potentially have in your car. We have 3 different sets of wheels to see the choices you have there. The last actual thing is this seems to be an actual configurator. I wanna see if I can play around with this real quick. Okay, so seems to be, if you wanted to, you would have your own configurator right here as well, which is very cool. All right guys, so these are some of the nice amenities that come along with a Ferrari Espirienza event like this. We have this gorgeous bottle right next to me. It's a cognac created by Remy Martin called Louis XIII. And the bottle is actually hand-blown glass that is created from 13 different artists. And obviously this cognac is made in the Cognac region in France, and they're usually aged from about 40 to 100 years old. So these bottles are created through generations, which is fascinating. There's such attention to detail and history within the bottle, within the glass as well. And we actually tried it, and you can taste the richness, the earthiness, and all these different flavors, the history within this special cognac. So that was an awesome experience.
Unlike any other. That's how Ferrari describes a Purosangue. And once I thought about it, I realized they're not wrong. Ferrari decided to stick a 6.5 liter naturally aspirated screaming V12 that produces 715 horsepower and 528 pound-feet of torque in a family car. If you look at other sports SUVs on the market, they all use V8s and many of them share similar components. In that sense, the Purosangue is completely bespoke. it's a differentiator. In the dynamics department, the Purosangue uses a multitude of unique trickery to sustain that Ferrari driving experience, like independent four-wheel steering and Ferrari active suspension, a world first where hydraulic shock absorbers are combined with 48-volt electric motors, allowing for increased speed and applying force in the direction of the shock absorber's stroke. The interior can be described as a genuine Ferrari lounge featuring a classy, elegant, yet sporty vibe. It's the first four-door Ferrari ever, and the doors open in a suicide motion. And oh, it weighs 2,033 kilograms, which for reference is more than 400 kilograms less than the new M5.
We have a red car with a yellow prancing horse badge and a V12 engine. That is the Ferrari Purosangue, which translates to pure blood or thoroughbred. The question I want to answer today with the Ferrari Purosangue is the fact that Ferrari calls it a FUV, which stands for a Ferrari utility vehicle. And I want to see if this Purosangue, an SUV, still encapsulates that Ferrari ethos, that emotion, that driving pleasure, and just the overall Ferrari-esque experience. So without further ado, let's hop into the car and see what it's all about. Already it is fascinating to feel just how the steering is, even in this comfort mode, already a little bit sporty. Yeah. Right, I have a good weight to it when I'm just even pulling out the driveway right here.
I mean, the aim was, when we were making this car, designing this car, is it had to feel like a Ferrari.
Yeah.
It really did have to feel like a Ferrari, because that was going to be the main thing people would come at this car for. It's like, this doesn't feel like it.
Yep, 715 horsepower from a naturally aspirated V12 6.5 liter.
Got it.
And then a wet weight of about 2,100 kilograms. Honestly, in today's day and age with the new M5, that's not even that bad.
Nothing.
Excited to get this out on the main road and really hear and feel what that V12's like.
It does have the same all-wheel drive system as we had in the USO and FF, where it is two separate transmissions, one on the front of the engine and one on the rear.
Wow.
So it's an 8-speed transmission, dual clutch, of course, going to the rear wheels, and that's the primary drive.
Okay.
But then for the front wheels, you have a separate 2-speed gearbox up front.
Wow.
So that will work up to about 70 miles an hour, but it helps you in snow or sand or any kind of like inclement weather. So
fascinating.
We'll be seeing these in Aspen with snow tires for sure.
Yeah.
Drifting up those mountain roads.
Yep.
That's what I would be doing.
I will put it into sport mode now. Curious to see how everything happens, and I'll pop it into manual mode as well. Hear that V12. That's already pretty unique. To just hear at 4,000 RPM, that exhaust coming out the back, definitely special. I love the carbon fiber paddles as well. That's something you always got to get used to when driving a Ferrari. They're not connected to the steering wheel, right? They're always in the same position.
And you never forget that there's a V12 up front too.
No, never. And to that point, something I actually wanted to mention earlier was the fact that I've briefly driven an 812, and the little buttress curve over the front tires is a little bit of a similar view. It's reminding me of it, and even the mirrors as well are very similar to the ones on the 812. Yeah. And I was fascinated by how big that car was. So there's some resemblance there. It goes back to the point that you made, or they want to make this feel like it is a Ferrari, a true Ferrari.
Are you familiar with the suspension in this car?
So yeah, I did read up a little bit on that, and I think there's 2 points there. Is that it's kind of a Ferrari first. It actually has 45 kilowatt batteries on the suspension, right? I mean, the main reason there is to reduce roll in corners, right? And make it more sporty.
It does, but the interesting thing with it is there's no anti-roll bars. So if you lift up the hood, you're not going to see an anti-roll bar connecting the shock towers.
Okay.
So because we use that 48-volt system to work the motor that's attached to a spool valve dampener, which is generally a race car dampener that you have, which controls the fluid going up and down through this little spool valve. We put a motor on it so we can independently control at each corner how much pressure is going into that dampener.
Fascinating.
So, say you're accelerating out of this left-hand corner here, all the weight wants to sit in the back right.
Yeah.
That dampener firms up and keeps it flat.
You can feel that.
Yeah.
You can actually even feel it through the steering a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
the other
fascinating.
thing that's really neat about it too is for the first time we've had bumpy road mode in our cars for a while. Which my quick fun fact about that is that was developed by Michael Schumacher. And comfort is the secondary feature of that. The original feature of that is when you're going over a rough road, it softens up the suspension. And that's not for comfort, it's so that your tire can maintain a contact patch. Because if you have a firm suspension, it's going to bounce over it and catch some air.
fascinating.
If it's soft, it'll keep down and keep that contact patch.
Yeah, and I've actually heard that with race car drivers themselves and people who review the cars, especially when they're on really bumpy B roads, they're like, okay, let me put it into bumpy road mode.
Yeah.
It's actually going to handle better.
It absolutely will.
Oh, that sound is fascinating.
So good.
Fascinating.
So good.
And that's only 4,000 RPM.
Yeah. You have those quick downshifts.
That's a race car sound, and to hear that in a FUV or SUV is fascinating.
When you're on throttle, there's two different noises you're going to hear too. So primarily what you hear is the exhaust note. You hear that from the back.
Yeah.
But when you have your foot all the way down in it, you really, engine's under maximum load.
Yep.
You get this incredible induction noise too.
I mean, you can feel the weight, but as you said, once you get to the higher RPMs, the engine and the power is there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. The downshifts are aggressive and fast.
Yeah.
Again, something that you wouldn't think of to be in a car like this. And there's that induction. There's that induction.
So see, you have to wind it out to really get max power instead of having it just be available everywhere. This, yeah, very little.
I mean, it handles it.
It does.
Easily.
Yeah. There's never a moment you're nervous.
Oh, wow.
Come on.
And the lights on the shifter as well, fascinating.
Yeah.
The fact that an SUV, or a FUV, I'll call it FUV,
Yeah.
to keep Ferrari corporate happy,
Yeah.
can put a smile on your face like that is fascinating. And I've been talking about this a lot in my videos recently with the fact that, as you mentioned, speed is so accessible in sports cars and supercars nowadays. It's more about the theatrical experience. That V12 brings that theatricalness, right? And that's how cars nowadays set themselves apart.
Yeah.
And every other sport SUV has a twin turbo V8, right? And you don't need to rev it out all the way to 8,000 RPM to hear that, to feel that excitement, right? And rev it out here a little bit.
Yeah.
It's got some kick to it. It's fascinating. You can feel the car doing things in the middle of the corner. I mean, I know it has four-wheel independent steering taken from the 812 Competizione, which is fascinating as well. The fact that this car takes that four-wheel steering from a car like the 812 Competizione just tells you how serious Ferrari were as well in the development of this thing.
Yeah.
And those downshifts.
Right.
They're so aggressive. The car revs fast as well.
Sounds like the atmosphere is ripping apart. Those downshifts.
Man, Ferrari, don't stop making V12s, please.
Please. A lot of people did end up making an SUV as a profit margin car.
Yeah.
This isn't necessarily that, because the amount of development that had to go into this compared to our production numbers really isn't that high. I look at this car more so as a, oh, that's how you're doing it? We can do it better.
Yeah. Gonna give it some beans just here at a slower speed. That is hilarious.
It's silly.
It is silly. The brakes have good stopping power as well. I mean, and it has good feel as well to it. It's communicating to you. It's not just there to stop 2,100 kilograms. It's there to actually give you a little bit of a communicative feel to understand how much brake power you need to put, understand where the limit is.
And the even more fascinating thing, or impressive thing, brake by wire.
And I was gonna ask, because I know the 296 is brake by wire, but that's part of the reason why it feels so good, why it feels so racy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wild. It's just a joy. I mean, it is just a joy.
It really is. It just takes your your daily driver and elevates it to the true Ferrari experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it back into comfort. The downshifts are way smoother. Way smoother.
Note it's a little quieter too.
Yeah.
Exhaust valves are closed up.
I love the steering wheel as well. I mean, the way your hands just fit and your palms fit perfectly into place right here. It's race car like.
It is, and it teaches a lot of people to keep their hands at 9 and 3.
Yeah.
Which is the best position. Even though 10 and 2 is what we were all taught, it is 9 and 3.
I'm gonna pop her back into sport. Give a couple last blasts here.
Of course.
Still though, it's crazy how the thing picks up.
Yep. Really is.
And the downshifts are addicting. That's a really theatrical part of this car, is when you can access those revs from the V12 to hear it and to feel that burst of pop, like you mentioned, is
that's amazing.
That is stupid.
That's amazing.
It's funny. It's hysterical. I mean, it's music.
It is.
Yeah. I actually was surprised for the weight, and being a naturally aspirated car, it still had good torque on the low RPM range.
6.5 liter V12. It's not small.
Yeah.
That's not a tiny motor.
Ooh.
Takes a minute.
All right, this is a cool view, guys. You get the 812 comp leaving, and the LaFerrari leaving. Fascinating. And you can feel that four-wheel steering here, actually. It helps with turning radius. Well, that's it for the driving part. I want to thank Andrew so much. Thank you for taking the time and allowing us to do this. It was an absolute pleasure. What an experience with the Ferrari Purosangue. And there's that V12. Unbelievable. All right, guys, so I just got back. I'm done from driving the Ferrari Purosangue. It is a fascinating car, but before we get into that, I just want to give a brief shout out to Mr. Halmai, Andrew, and Blake from Ferrari SA. And you guys have seen Mr. Halmai in my previous video, the 3RS versus the 4RS. This video would not have been possible without their generosity, so thanks to them. I posed that question earlier, whether this car still encapsulates that Ferrari ethos. And the question is, it does. It is a completely different Ferrari, right? It's bigger, it is an SUV, but that screaming V12, the race-like interior, the driver-focused interior, all the different dials, the Manatino switch on the steering wheel, being able to upshift and downshift, and how aggressive those downshifts are with that screaming V12. It is Ferrari-esque. And then you get to the looks of it as well. It is just stunning in person. I know a lot of people didn't necessarily like the design when it first came out, but it's got elegant lines to it. And the last thing that I'll leave you guys with is you think about all the other sports SUVs out there. I'm talking Lamborghini Urus, Audi RS Q8. They share components. This Ferrari is completely bespoke and one of one. So without further ado, please browse the channel, subscribe, watch some of my previous content. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys next time with even better car content.